straight out of the T-Dot.
That's what it is.
Live from the 6 boroughs.
Don't go nowhere.
For sure. Welcome to Standing in the 6 with your hosts Michael and Constantine.
And Miguel Anthony, live.
So, good morning, everybody.
Yes.
Good morning. And today is a very special day, as always. First of all, before we get to our wonderful guest, we got Miguel Anthony live.
The intern.
The intern now. The new intern.
The new intern.
The new intern in the house. Right. And Miguel, do your thing, man. I want to see you do your thing right now. This is actually your cue. I want to see you do this.
We're joking. He's not a new intern. We're doing a test right now.
Yeah,
he's coming on just to see if he's got the chops.
This is his audition, everybody.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes in life you got to take a few steps back to take
a giant leap forward.
Exactly. So I don't mind downgrading to being an intern.
So look,
I have no problem with it.
I mean, he hasn't even touched the Zoom section one time.
Oh, sorry.
It's all good. You start toggling.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah, nice.
Okay.
Do you know which one?
I think I got it now.
Are they labeled for you?
No, but I'll figure it out as I go.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, so I'm here figuring out how to toggle.
Okay, so I'll do it for him. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce somebody today that, I'm very much looking forward to this. We got Dale Swift in the house. Dale Swift.
You wanted me to introduce him?
I did.
Oh, I thought you wanted to introduce me.
No.
I thought you wanted me to tell about me.
Oh, share the cookies, man.
No,
share the cookies.
We already saw you in the
share
COVID
the
police.
cookies.
We saw you in the COVID police.
Wait a second.
Right?
Okay. Oh, you mean what we rehearsed?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so Dale Swift.
Okay.
Just so you know, we rehearsed this a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm messing up.
Yeah.
So
who's Dale, Miguel? Who's Dale?
Dale's my boy.
Okay.
Simply put, Dale's my boy.
Okay.
Dale's a great dude. He's a cop. Police officer.
Nice.
YDM, one time, whatever you want to call him.
Hood cop, good cop.
Hood cop. Oh.
Hood cop.
Okay.
Hood cop, good cop.
Okay.
Like that.
He's just on the names. I'm going to ask you because of the relationship. Do people still refer to like cops as like eating donuts and
All the time.
and
So I got
and bacon? Oh, it's bacon pig. Like, is that still a thing?
You'll literally go into some neighborhoods, all you hear is
They're still squealing. So we get a better squeal. They'll just have the mic.
Yeah, Dale,
move it.
Bring
you
the
can
mic
move it
close
to you.
you.
I gotta get used to this.
Like bring it right up to you. Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? And
Like lean back and just put your mic right like that so you can just chill. You know
maybe
what I mean?
shift your chair to the right a little.
Yeah.
That's your feedback.
it?
You see that right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we're on camera as well.
And you can hear me?
Perfect.
Yes.
All right, you want to hear my script?
But you want to have the mic about 2 inches from your face because you have a nice voice, man.
Okay.
There you go.
How about this?
All
There's
right.
a love, man. So they do. That's still a thing.
Yeah, so
Bacon. That's
there
still a
is
thing.
not as much as before.
Yeah.
I would say, especially the neighborhoods I go into, I don't hear it as much unless they don't know me. But there's times where you would literally get out of your car and you hear, wow, and you'd be like, did he just? Is
that how a pig sounds?
Apparently, I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
the oink oink is like, that's a TV version.
The oink, no, it's a high squeal.
Yeah,
They
it's a
want you to
squeal.
hear it, right?
Yeah.
So, and you don't know where it's coming from. It could be coming from anywhere.
Okay, so let me finish the intro. So we just got sidetracked because of the pig comments.
Okay.
So yeah, that's like the go-to, like security. Oh, let me guess, you just make $10 an hour, right?
Yeah.
You have your go-to insults for different.
Okay.
Apparently, they haven't seen your shoes, man.
Okay, stop this.
I know.
We'll talk about my shoes after.
And minimum
That's
wage
no
is almost
$10
15.
business.
Exactly, they got to up the insult.
Right? It's like, bro.
Oh, you're just working your $10 an hour job. It's now 15. Anyways, so Dale, police officer.
Yes.
But as you can see in his uniform, he's it says, what does it say there? Neighborhood
Community Officer.
Yeah, so
nice.
I'm sure Dale would tell us about what that means.
That's a lot of thread.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's like paste it on.
Tax
it's like,
dollars.
Shut up.
So,
That's a waste of tax dollars.
so that, but beyond all that stuff, what's amazing about Dale is he is like he's just a good cop. Like he loves the community. He's truly the the police slogan is what is it? To serve and protect.
Yes.
So he has mastered the first part of that.
Okay.
To serve. This guy serves the community, and he's active on social media, and he's cool, and he's got relationships. Like and he'll probably tell a story. Criminals will probably call him to turn themselves in. Dale, I got to do this, man. Could you walk me through the process? Like, so he's that guy. So there you go. Dale
That's
Swift, ladies and
facts.
gentlemen.
Yeah, that actually happened.
Yeah.
A couple times.
So diving right, let's just go right to the origin story. Where did you
Okay.
grow up?
I grew up in Chesterlee.
Oh,
Scarborough.
Scarborough.
160,
Chesterlee, the east
106,
side of Scarborough,
160
west side of
Chesterlee.
Scarborough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is Duce Chesterlee? Okay, forget it. Keep going,
Exactly.
Constantine.
Okay.
What do you say? What's do you say?
Where did you have that pivot moment where you're like, I need to do something? Like that, was that something? Look, I'll give you an example. For myself, always wanted to be a cop.
Yeah.
From like, I mean, it was identified from the young age. Okay.
Yeah.
When did that happen to you?
Honestly, like it's
And let's-
funny because in Chesterlee, it was funny because
We don't like cops.
You knew it's it's ingrained in you. You don't talk to the cops.
That's right.
But
Maybe
it
share a little bit about Chester, because when we say it, we know what that means to say. that you're-
Okay, so
point.
I grew up in Chesterlee around in the 90s, right? So, listen, when you're from Toronto housing, you know everything that's going on in Toronto housing.
Yeah.
You know who the major hitters are, you know who the drug dealers are, everything. You just know everything. I remember across from my backyard on the side was a crack house. It was the first time I actually saw people making crack. I was like, it's crazy. I walked in, I'm like, what's this stuff on the spoon?
Yeah.
And it was crazy. My boy was like, no, that they're making crack. And I'm like, oh. Then I had to go look that up to figure out what that was, right?
Yeah. Right.
But
At the library,
yeah, but
not the internet.
not the internet, right? Yeah, it was Google. No. So Chesterlee was an interesting thing because we were very close. The individuals were close. Like the guys who played ball were close to everybody else, and a lot of the major hitters played ball. So I was really big into ball. And I'd have to say one of the biggest reasons I didn't get involved or so enmeshed into the culture was because one of the main guys in Chesterlee was a big baller. And he actually could have went to play at Michigan. And he would have been playing with Chris Webber and these guys.
Yeah.
But
Fab Five.
he chose not to because really he's like, I have it made here. I'm making money.
Wow.
If I go to the States, no one's going to know me. So who am I? So he dipped. He said no. But I started playing, and he was like, Swift, I don't want you involved in this stuff. And he's like, you do your thing. We'll take care of you. And I won't lie. This guy, I've had a gun held to my head twice. And the one time was another guy from Glendower because he wanted to play with us at an outdoor basketball court and wanted to play in his
Birchmount and
baggy ass
Finch.
jeans and stuff like that. And he wanted to play me, whatever. So we're playing. I got annoyed and I dunked on him. This man got mad, went back to his car, got his gun. And I'm like 15, and I'm like, and he had it right to my head, and no word of a lie. I don't know who or what, or if someone paged, because it wasn't cell phone. Someone paged our guy from Chester, and he came with a whole bunch of guys, and he walked up to this guy and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm literally like about to pee myself, right? And long story short, our guy took this guy into a car, and they just disappeared. And that's a true story. That is a true story. And this is the stuff I find is really good to know as a police officer, right? Because you understand that what people are going through in their communities, right?
Okay.
And the interesting thing is that most of these communities are really good people. But for whatever reason, as a police officers, we just see them as a community, and that community is a bad community. Oh, that place is bad. Oh, you heard about June Finch or Driftwood or Galloway or Cataraqui or whatever. They always, like, community, social media, cops, it's just one big example of these are all just criminals. And 3% are maybe like top hitters, and 97 are usually just individuals who just work really hard.
Yeah, everyday people.
It's everyday people, and it's good people, right? And trust me, the good people don't like the bad stuff happening, right? But also the good people also depended on the not so good people in the neighborhood to protect them from the outside stuff. Very interesting. But sorry, going back to how I got involved. So we knew the good cops from the bad cops. We saw the good cop, we wouldn't mind, we'd do a heads up, cool, whatever. Usually the guys we play basketball with. We knew the bad cops. The bad cops are usually, no word of a lie, like the white guys with the beards, with the baseball caps backwards. Like, we always knew who was undercover.
Right.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, come on. As we say, and he's wearing crisp acid
yeah.
wash jeans.
And you're driving a Chevrolet or a Ford.
Right. Right.
Like,
Yeah,
you know,
saying, hey, buddy, you know where I can buy some speakers?
I'm telling you, the second, right? The
Yeah.
second you turn onto Morecambe Gate, everyone already knows there's someone in the neighborhood
Yeah.
that shouldn't be there. Right?
Yeah.
So we knew you're good cops, you knew you're bad cops. Cool. With me, my whole background is youth mental health. From time I was 18, all I would do was work with youth with severe mental health. That in itself was a trip. That was the hardest job I've ever done. Hardest job, because you don't have a lot of resources. It's the gift of gab. It's your communication. It's your ability to relate, listen, and diffuse at their pace, right? And coming into policing, that is a huge tool to have. When I was like, well, what's your gun? Have you pulled your gun? Like, what's your favorite weapon or whatever? I'm like, it's my mouth. And they're like, huh? I'm like, this has gotten me out of so many sticky situations, and I've gotten a lot of people out of sticky situations because it's that communication piece. You de-escalate, right? And not every time you can, but a lot of the time you can. But that means you also have to have patience. So, long story short, my cousin, who now works for York, he was trying to get onto Peel, and he called me and he's like, "Hey, like, I think you should be a cop." And I'm like, "Are you dumb? Like, why?"
Yeah.
He's like, "No, you'd be good, man."
How old are you at this time?
I'm like in my 20s. So
Yeah.
I want to say I'm like maybe 25, 26.
Yeah.
And
okay.
he's got 3 years on me, right? And I'm like, no, I'm good with what I'm doing, but what I'm doing is you can't take days off. Like, you work, you make money. You don't work, you don't make money, right? I was making good money, but at the same time, it's tiring. It's social work, right? But he's like, no, he's like, they need your personality. And I'm like, and my personality at that time, my belief of a policing personality was very different. And anytime I thought police, I think big white guy who doesn't talk, right? Who just kind of stands there with his, but that was my perception. And I'm like, that, yeah. I'm like,
Yeah, and we're
Yeah.
miming for those listening.
yeah.
Hands
Holding the vest.
holding the top of your vest.
So I'm like, I don't suit that.
Right.
Like, I'm just like, that is not me. I'm like, I'm going to be smiling. I'm going to be interacting. And I'm like, they're not going to like this, right? But my cousin is
He's
like
like,
my
that's
brother.
exactly what we need.
Exactly, right? And I've always looked up to him. He played professional football. He was on Seattle Seahawks, and he
Wow.
came back and he finished off with the CFL. And so Grayson Shillingford. And so I looked up to him. So I was like, if he thinks this is a good idea, it must be a good idea. So I looked into it, and long story short, one service kind of said no to me. So they pushed me through the system really, really, really quick. And it was crazy because they're like, oh, you're exactly what we needed. And then I still to this day have no idea if they accepted me or what they did with my file, but I never went through. And it was weird. So the incredible thing is the recruiter at this one service was like, forget this. And she brought my whole package to Toronto and said, look, I don't know how, but we dropped the ball on this guy. This guy needs to be a cop.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
who does that?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And this is a true 100% story. Lisa, you're the best.
Yeah.
She brought it to them, and they gave me a call quick, and then I was talking to them, and they were trying to explain to me like what happened in the process, and it really didn't make that much sense, but I was like, okay, whatever.
Whatever, yeah.
So
Just tell them something, guys.
Toronto, I remember I'm sitting in the interview, and it was this big white cop, right? Not a uniform, nothing, just like shirt barely fit. And I'm like, I'm happy, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. I got my suit on. I'm ready. I'm like, I'm 32 now.
Yeah.
Right? I'm 32.
Yeah.
So I guess I must have been a lot older when he asked me. Yeah. So at 32, I'm sitting there. I'm good. And he comes down. He sits. So typical what I think a cop, like just white cop just talking, right?
Yeah.
So he starts going through my file and everything. And then he's like, oh, just ask me questions. I'm like, okay, cool. Then he's like, oh, so I see you're from Chester Lee. And I'm like, here we go. Right? So he started dropping
we go
names
now.
to me.
Here we go.
now. So what?
What?
Don't even get me started.
I know.
now.
And you said ordinary people earlier, which we gotta play.
Oh man, stop being
So I was
bold.
always, and I'm a squirrel too. I'll get on that and not even
There you go.
just.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So Chester. Oh, so
yeah,
he puts
so-
it in. So you're from Chester Lee.
Yeah. So he's like, you're from Chester Lee? And I'm like, yep. So he starts dropping names and situations that happened in Chester.
Wow.
So I start off like this, and literally 5 minutes in, I'm like,
There we go. Yeah. Yeah.
just
Like he
like-
deflated you.
completely.
Wow.
But it was interesting because, so he's asked me all these questions. I'm like, I'm not getting this job.
Yeah.
So he actually leaves the room.
Yo, bring the mic closer to you, bro.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
So I gotta get used to this.
Yeah.
Stuff now.
Yeah. It's all
Is that
good.
good?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he actually leaves the room, And I'm sitting there going, wow, like,
Yeah.
again, this is happening again.
Yeah.
So he comes in. So I stood up. I'm like, okay, I'm getting ready for it, right? I'm just
Yeah.
getting ready. I'm like, what am I going to tell my fiance? Like, here we go. And he's like, you're accepted. And I was like,
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, what? He's like, you're the kind of police officer we need. He's like, I asked you, you told me.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you are from those situations, so you have an understanding of what these communities are.
Love it.
And what happens. He's like, I don't know what happened in the last process, but he's like, you have my in, and you are being pushed through. And it was funny because in that situation, I'm profiling him.
Yeah.
And he's really making sure that I'm the right fit for
Yes.
which Toronto wants to go now.
Yes.
So it was ironic. Like, I was the one being biased towards him.
Wow.
Yeah.
When he was just reiterating to me how good of an officer I could be.
So we're gonna jump on that point. Before we do, I'm gonna tell you a very quick story, very similar to what you just said right now, but it doesn't have a happy ending. So are you familiar? Are you familiar with ABLE?
Yes.
Association of
Yeah,
Black Law?
yeah.
Okay. So I was associated with that organization. I was a member. And for those who know what
Can you see what it is?
ABLE
Because you sound like you say Association of
Association
Baklavas.
of
That's what it sounds like.
Baklavas.
Association
He is
of-
Greek.
Association of
okay,
Black
okay.
Law Enforcement Officers.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay.
That's what ABLE stands
Yep.
for. And I was a member of that. And I remember it was an interview that I had with York Regional Police. And I had I guess it was a magazine from ABLE, but I had all my documents inside the sleeve.
Okay.
So I remember at the interview, I basically had the magazine on the desk, and the officer looks. He goes, "What is that?" And I go, "Oh, it's an association I'm involved with." And what does that mean? And I tell him, and then I just turned it around because I didn't want to be distracting. And then there was the logo now of the Toronto Police on the back of the magazine. And he goes, "Oh, so is that who you want to apply to?" And I'm like, whoa. I go, it's just the magazine that I have my papers in, right? Okay, no problem. So how often do you drink? I'm like, I don't drink. I've never actually had alcohol before. Now, this is a very real thing. I did not have my first sip of alcohol to the age of 25. Okay, this is probably at 21 years old age right now. So he's like, "What do you mean you've never drank before?" And he slams his hand on the table. He goes, "You know what, man? This interview's done." And he ended it. That was the end of the interview.
Whoa.
It didn't go past that because he thought I was lying.
You thought you were just
'Cause-
BSing him.
Because everybody drinks, right? So to me, that again, that was a very defining moment
Yeah.
about that. And I always thought, I know who I am as a person. I know what I bring to the table. I know what I can do, right? My path didn't ever get into the path of policing. I got into social work, kind of kicked in. That's where I started with the City of Toronto, and I did that for 17 years.
Yeah.
And then I ended up kind of just really kind of getting to the security industry. I say that because I see people every day come to us and say, man, their goals and aspirations are to be a police officer. And then I would put them into two categories. Category one are those people that absolutely have what it takes and they will represent very well in policing. And then you got the second category of people that you just know no matter what you do, man, you are just not police material, okay? I find always that people that have street smarts, I grew up in Flemington Park, okay? Okay, that's where I grew up. I find that a lot of people that don't walk with street smarts are the ones that are probably going to be cast in a very negative light in how they're going to deal with the situation, because they walk in with a lot of fear and misconception into a situation, right? They're I mean, there's a whole other element we can just talk about that, but just kind of throw it back to you. When you're looking at the new hires of the police coming on board, right? And what would you say someone that wants to be a cop, what would you say you need to have this, or you're probably going to have a very hard time getting on?
I always say it's communication. I'm like, look, I don't care how much you can bench. I don't care if you're part of gun clubs. I don't care. Like, you hear all this stuff. And,
Right.
and I'm just like, the community doesn't care about that.
Right.
Because I feel like when these individuals are coming on, they're looking to impress the police officers. And I'm like, no, you're supposed to impress your community. Right? And I remember for me, it was a huge thing for me my biggest issue was, I hope I'm accepted into a culture I don't know. And I think being a non-white male going into policing, that's what you think about a lot. You're like, am I going to fit in with the boys club, with the stuff that I usually don't have a lot of similarities with? Like, it could be music, it could be the way you dress, it could be hobbies, whatever, right? because sometimes it's so different. So you wonder, like, how am I going to fit in? And I almost quit my first year. Because I was like, this sucks. Right?
Why? Like, what sucked about it?
Well, it was, I noticed there was a lot of people who, even younger than I was, that had like maybe 6 more months on than me when I was a rookie, that were already disgruntled. And the way I saw a lot of them dealing with the community, I was like, this is crazy. But at the same time, I also saw there was a lot of officers who were really there for the right reasons. Like, I had 2 amazing coach officers who, thank God, really emphasized the community aspect of it, and they were phenomenal police officers. So I held on to that. But at that stage, I honestly felt that they were not the norm. And the norm was something I didn't want to be a part of, right? But going back to a lot of the rookies, interesting enough, through social media, I've had a lot of individuals, and especially a lot of black males, saying, you know what, I want to be a police officer. And they're like, I can't even believe I'm saying this to you. But you keep talking about if you want to be the difference, if you want to see a difference, you got to be the difference, right? And you got to walk the walk, knowing that you're going to have targets in your front, in your back, from both internally and externally. It's just going to happen. And so I just talked them through this. I said, your biggest issue or your biggest concern as a police officer coming in is it's personnel management. Most of the stress, and I will tell you now, when you talk to other officers in regards to stress, it is always something that is happening inside. It is rare, and I mean extremely rare, for them to talk about community relations or something that happened in the community. It is literally 99% of the time, it is an issue that they have with someone else. It's an issue that they have with their supervisors, or not being appreciated, or whatever. It's the internal struggle. So it's a lot of officers, unfortunately, I think, have that internal struggle, don't feel appreciated, and then they bring that into the community, and that's when issues happen, right? It's really hard on this job to really find that intrinsic drive to go, despite this is happening inside, I got to be this way outside. And anyone who knows me at my division knows I come in and I leave, because being inside can be a cesspool for negativity, right? And it's unfortunate. So I have a choice to either be a part of that or not. So I tell a lot of these young individuals, girls, females, various cultures, I'm like, look, it's personnel management, and you have to be able to communicate. Every officer you meet is going to have a different personality and a different ideology in regards to what policing should look like. I'm like, remember why we hired you. We hired you for your personality.
It's crazy.
And one of the hardest things to do when you get on the job is keep it. Keep who you are. And the good thing about me coming out at 32 is I knew myself, right? So I knew when something didn't fit. So I had to really challenge myself to say, like, how much of a difference do I really want to make? And are the sacrifices worth it? They are in the end. And it's real talk. I'm like, let me talk real talk with you. You're going to have people who want to get into your business, and you're going to have individuals who feel that they know you based on what someone else said in passing. So we are our own worst enemies 100%, because there are officers doing absolutely phenomenal stuff on this job. But it's usually other officers who want to put those officers down.
Do you use fear to guide you on the job?
Do I use fear to guide me on the job?
Yeah, what I mean by that is, like, if somebody walks into a situation and they have zero fear, then they're probably not going to look out for that, thing that could be hiding, because they have zero fear. It doesn't matter if they jump out. They say you should always have a little bit of fear walking into situations, right?
Always. And predominantly it being in this role, which is not usual, I typically work by myself. I just got a partner in the fall, and he's amazing. But you have to have that fear, and you also have that understanding of that community, right? So when you go into a community, you have to know it. But to know it, you have to be there, right? So when you come into it, you're like, okay, I shouldn't go there by myself. This is where I need to kind of stay away from. This is who I can talk to. This is who I shouldn't talk to. This is where I should keep my car. It's respecting the dynamics of the community, right? Because I'm a guest. I do not walk into a community saying, like, oh, I'm a cop, and blah, 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 and you have to listen to me. They're like, who are you?
Yes.
We don't care who you are. You literally have no meaning in our lives right now. And I think a lot of cops walk in with that feeling. And I'm like, you can't. You have to legitimately humble yourself. you don't have to like or agree with some of the people that you interact with, but understand there's going to be resistance just based on how they see us.
Well, look at the model of police forces: to serve and protect. Right?
Yep.
I mean, look, we talk about leadership all the time. What does it mean to be a leader? The true identification of a leader is someone that serves others. I'm here to serve you.
Yeah.
That's what leadership is.
Yeah.
And if you look at policing, I think when sometimes people just like to say nice statements, but to serve and protect, you truly are serving the community. But I hear what you're saying. Sometimes it's almost reversed, where we're not serving here. Like you're kind of like, look, I'm not going to say this. Somebody we had on the show, actually, I can't say this. I got to stop right now. If I say it, I'm going to say it. But anyways, it's the perception, right? It's what it comes down to, the perception.
So Dale, can you talk about tell us more about your
Neighborhood officer program?
Yeah, what that is.
So how I see it, and I believe this is the ideology, is it's you have an officer who is integrated into a community. So they're not there to just investigate and gather information, but they're literally trying to learn about their community so they can bring it back to the other individuals on the service and be a voice for the community, but also empower them. Because you want to work with a community where you can make them feel empowered. I don't want to be the overseer. You want to be a community partner. There's no point in us being an overseer, right? And I think when you're a community officer, when you're a neighborhood officer, you are in there talking to anyone, despite what their reaction is to you. And with me going into areas like Spareways, Brahms, anywhere, and I'd be like, hey, what's up? And they'd be like, whatever, man. Like, who are you? Or whatever they want to do, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, I'll catch you tomorrow. And then I say hi to that same individual every time I see them. And the whole flipping the bird or whatever or kissing your teeth turns into like a head nod.
Eventually, yeah.
And then it's like, what's up, officer?
You show up with some patties, and then.
But yeah, but the reason that is I'm showing up.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't need to know your name. I don't need to know who you are. I'm just saying I am here, and I am making the effort to know you and your community without saying a word. It's
cool.
being present.
Yeah.
Because communities only see us when we're investigating.
That's right.
Right? That's it. So that message to them is that you only see us as criminals. So when you see an officer in your neighborhood, it's not like police, it's not like firefighters, right? It's like you see police officers, like, oh my God, what's wrong?
That's right.
Right? And if you see cops in their car and not getting out of the community, that sends a message that you don't trust them enough to lead themselves. You don't trust them enough to make the right decisions based on the actions of a few. And that's why I said you have to really humble yourself. So me doing that, I will be that way in every situation, but also at the same time respecting those situations. I'll have kids who reach out to me on Instagram and we'll have great conversations. But if I see them in public with their friends, I don't talk to them. And that is because of a safety thing.
That's cool.
Because they'd be like, what, you know this cop? What do you know about this cop? What does this cop know about you? Right? So me saying, hey, what, you're not going to say hi to me now because you're with your boys?
Right.
And I've seen that happen. And you just set up that kid because we leave the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Now they got to stay there. And now they could be ostracized or things that are even worse. Right?
Yeah.
So you have to respect how they feel comfortable talking to you.
Do you love what you do?
I love what I do. Of course I do.
And how long have you been doing it for?
I've been doing it for 5.5 years. And
Okay.
it took a while, even for myself as a black officer, it took a long time for me to gain that respect. And I think a lot of people, they're like, oh, yeah, they love you because you're black and you play basketball. Oh, my God. Like, you hear all this stuff, and I'm just like, actually, I'll tell you, it's the complete opposite. I said, if I walk into, say, even Chesterley or somewhere else with a white officer, they don't care about the white officer. They're watching me. He's like, no, they're not, man. It's whatever. I'm like, yes, they are. They already made up their mind about you, maybe. But they're like, what are you going to do? Because I see him a certain way. This is the community talk. I see him a certain way. I'm assuming you're familiar with who we are.
That's right. You're supposed to be
based
one of
on
us.
who you are.
That's right.
So how are you going to treat us? And it's harder for me. And I have to make that
That's
effort.
a good point.
It is. And they don't get it. They're like, no, they accept you because, no, they accept me because I put myself out there.
You're on thinner ice.
I am on thinner ice
Yeah.
because they will see, I've lost friends becoming a police officer. So the community can, 1 second, could see me as a traitor.
Yeah.
And then me building relationships with the community, my officers can see me as a traitor.
Right.
And I've been called a traitor from my police officer friends. For what?
Give us an idea. You have obviously like a very specialized aspect of the job, which is cool. Where does the balance of it come in? Serving and protecting, walking about with these communities, building relation, but also knowing, that one or two things can happen, and actively policing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I think the balance comes after they realize that you're there for the right reasons, right?
Yeah.
So I've been in situations where we had to arrest these kids. We found 2 stolen cars, whatever. It was just last year, I think January. And they were giving officers a hard time, and then I had to go grab the one kid, and I wrestled him down to the ground. And he looked up, he's like, Officer Swift. He's like, oh.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, man, I didn't know it was you.
Yeah.
But the good thing about that is that they know your intentions are good. And despite what them doing wrong, they know they're safe. They might chat and whatever and so on and so forth, but when the community sees you enforcing the law and arresting people, they're happy because they know this officer and what they're doing. And even the people you're arresting are like, okay. Because I'm always like, don't make me be a police officer.
That's interesting. You're basically saying they understand it.
Yeah.
People are smart enough to understand, okay, something might have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Cars might have been stolen.
Yeah.
Policing has to happen. What's interesting, what you said, though, is that what deflated or de-escalates the tension is there's someone who's actively policing is trusted.
100%.
And they know that, okay, because we know that when there isn't trust and fear perpetuates and grows and they're shouting and no one really knows who these cops are and what they're going to try to make happen, that's when something really bad happens. And we see that in the States a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It gets to a point where it literally goes off the cliff. Right? Because they're both parties are terrified of each other. Right?
It is. And I find, and it's funny because everyone, I think, well, no, not everyone. I think a lot of police officers think I just go into communities and just smile and laugh and do Instagram. And I'm like, Instagram is...
Yeah, and show them heel and toe from the 90s.
I'm like,
right?
Instagram is like 5 to 10% maybe of what I do. And I'm like, and the Instagram is not for you old ass people or whoever it is who can't appreciate it. It is for the youth because this is how they communicate.
That's how they communicate, yeah.
Not every youth has a phone, but guaranteed every youth can find some free Wi-Fi, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
That's
through Instagram, through whatever, I got off Facebook because that was more for the adults, and the kids are like, we want to keep in contact, but we don't use Facebook because our parents use Facebook.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
it's
Isn't that
been-
crazy?
So are
Yeah.
you TikToking now too?
I'm TikToking.
Yeah, there you go.
And the great thing is the interaction with the youth is great, but obviously there are more old school officers who just don't understand how impactful this is with the youth, because that is who we're trying to reach.
And you play ball, you said, right?
I play ball, and if you see some of the posts that we have, if you see the genuine interaction of myself with these guys through a basketball program I usually run on Tuesdays, you'd be like, this guy's not a cop.
Are you able to push out where you advertise what you do on Tuesdays, like from what people want to become part of that?
Oh,
Part of
yeah. And the thing about that is they know it's a safe place. The only rule is I'm like, don't make me be a police officer. They get it, right? No weapons, no whatever, no disrespect.
I love that. Don't make me be a police
Yeah,
officer.
that's all I say to them. And I'm like, you manage yourself. You guys are
Ooh,
grown-ass
that's good.
men.
Yeah.
That's good.
You guys are grown-ass men. Figure it out. Like, they'll get into fights on the court. They're like, Swift. I'm like, you're a grown-ass man. Like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
Like, use your words.
Right? Use your words.
So the great thing about these interactions is everyone sees, oh, you just play basketball. I'm like, no. It's like, it's a safe place for these kids. These kids don't have to tell me their name. They usually know that they use their street names or whatever. I don't need to know your name. I just need to know this is, I know if you're here, you're safe, right? So when these games are happening on the court, I'm on the side talking to kids about their situations.
Yeah.
They're reaching out to me in ways that you would never think these kids are going through the certain things that they are.
Can you share a story? You probably have a lot of them. Share a story about how you just being proactive, because you're talking kind of like proactive policing, just being present, being there, being someone who's in their ear.
Trust.
When they're not in cuffs, this is when you're hooping.
Yeah.
So give us an idea through that osmosis of that time together that a kid said to you, I would have, but because
I could sit here for like
I was gonna say
10 hours plus straight.
yeah.
I can give you one straight story, because it's the interesting thing is with policing, to be an effective police officer or to have an effective investigation, you have to have community support. So
Interesting.
if you do not have that relationship with the community, your investigations are so much harder. Why? Because no one's telling you anything.
No one trusts you.
But literally just really quickly, in the last 3 years, I've solved 2 homicides based on the fact that one person called me and they turned themselves in. And the other one, I knew the person. But I also, not only did I know the shooter, I was close to his family. So, and I also knew the victim because the victim was best friends with a kid I was working with at another school. So it's not you go do this case and it's all done and you're like, yeah, great job with policing.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks. Like, you know you got to say something because you know who this person is. You got to do something. But then I have the suspect's father calling me drunk, crying
Oh, man.
about his son, and he knows I know his son. And then I go to school and I talk to the kid who's the victim was his best friend, and he's breaking down. So I'm involved in both sides.
Very tough.
Right? And that's the thing, like being a part of the community, I've been a part of multiple investigations. It's ongoing, but people don't know that because I don't advertise that. But nor do I feel like I need to. Like if you want to feel like I do nothing, so be it. What are you doing? But in regards to these kids, okay, there's one. So this kid came to the program probably 2 years ago, and he wanted nothing to do with me. And some of the kids I knew brought him. And I'm like, hey, what's up? He's like, and he was loud. He just wanted to play. Just, you could tell he was going through stuff because he would just get angry like that. Right? And he thought he was a baller. He's one of those guys who thinks he's a baller, but he's not really a baller.
Yeah.
And then he gets frustrated. But it was interesting because, and so he was coming to the program on Tuesday all the time. And I would try my best just to kind of interact with this guy. Right? One day I heard him in the corner talking about he's into photography. And I'm like, what?
There it is.
And I'm like, yo, you're into photography? And he's like, yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, do you mind if I see some of your stuff? And he's like, okay. So then he opened up his Instagram account and he was showing me all the pictures he took. And this kid is talented.
Yeah.
Talented. So I start talking about his pictures and I'm like, do you mind if I follow you on Instagram so I can see your different stuff? And he's like, yeah. He's like, sure. And he's looking at his boys and they're like, nah, man, this is normal. Like, like this is Swift, right? This is who he is. He's not going to go through your Instagram to look for stuff to get you in trouble. Like if he's interested, he's interested. So that bridged the gap between us. Somehow we started talking on times where he was off about how his dad was deported for murder. And he has a very dysfunctional relationship with his mom. So we started talking. So I started talking about my background. Like I grew up in a very abusive home. I had to move out when I was 17 because my mom had some mental health stuff going on, and the abuse was unreal. So he would tell me stories in regards to what was the situation with him and his mom, and then I would share stories with him too. And the one thing about youth that you have to do is if you want them to open up, you have to be vulnerable yourself. You cannot expect them to give you information about themselves or share if you are not willing to do that yourself.
That's true of people.
I am a walking, my sleeves are up. I will tell you everything. I will tell you the times I cried. I've cried in front of them because I'll think about things that really upset me growing up. And I'm just real with them. And I always talk to them about strength and vulnerability. I'm like, you can, because it's ironic. Like you're like, oh, I'm tough. I can deal with it, whatever. You go drinking, you do whatever, you're destructive. And that to you is strength. But how much strength is it that you show someone this is a flaw or something that really bothers me to the point where I want to cry, and you share that with someone? That's got to be strength. Because you're putting yourself out there for ridicule and judgment.
Yes.
That to me is strength. And I have these conversations with these young men and women all the time, and they start to get it. So he starts sharing with me. I start sharing with him. I don't see him for a while. I go to another program that has nothing to do with my area, Tropicana, and he's there. And I know the youth outreach worker. And I'm like, oh my God, so-and-so, you work here? He's like, yeah. He's like, Swift, what are you doing here? And I'm like, because I know him, and like 6 degrees of separation, blah, 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 whatever, right? We have a further conversation. This kid disappears again. He gets, I get a call from one of the youth workers. He gets arrested because his mom pretty much set him up. Like, threw stuff at him. He came back to the house to check on his little brother. Mom was there. She was upset that he didn't have food there. So she starts yelling at him, throwing stuff at him. And before he left, he punches the door and makes a hole. She calls police. He's on conditions already. He gets arrested again, right? So I don't start seeing this kid. They let him go. He's trying really, really hard to find a job, but he doesn't have a phone. right? And I have no communication with this kid still, right? So I'm like, I don't know what happened to this kid. So he goes to a pawn shop. He goes to get a phone. The guy tells him the price, and he just dips with the phone.
Yeah.
Right? And the funny thing I told him was like, if you needed a phone, man, I would have got you a phone.
Right.
But listen, I don't care if I got to put my own money. Right? So one of the officers calls me because he says my name. And I'm like, no, this kid is good. He's just been through a lot. And I'll tell you now, he's trying to get jobs. So that's why he needs the phone. So he gave the phone back. I think they dropped the charges. It took a while, but they dropped the charges. And I told this kid, I was like, look, put me down as a reference. I tell these kids to put me down as a reference all the time. I said, but don't make me look stupid. If you're putting me down as a reference, you better commit to what you say you're doing. Because a lot of these kids want to get jobs, but they have no one to represent them.
Nobody, yeah.
No one.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even tell you how many job applications or co-op stuff that I'm involved with, unbeknownst to myself, because I'm just saying, kids, just use my name, right? So this kid living back and forth through community centers, whatever, not community centers, shelters and stuff like that, minimal interaction with him. Then he calls me out of the blue, and this is near Christmas 2 years ago, and he's like, I'm looking for a place. Like, he calls me at home. So I'm at home with my kid and my wife and whatever. And he's like, I'm having a problem finding a place. No one wants to give me a place because I'm a young black male, and he's like, I don't think they feel comfortable with me living in their basement. I have no references. I have nothing. I just got a job. Like, can you help me out? So I was like, how about this? You can use me as a reference, but I'm going to say I'm your uncle. So I went to, all right? So I went to one showing with him with this lady, and he liked the place. She liked the fact that his relative was an officer, and she gave it to him at a price that he could work with. And I had a TV at my place. I brought the TV for him, so he had a Sony TV, so he could kind of set up and stuff like that. And he was good. And this is just before Christmas, and this kid has no family. He can't go home. He's got nothing. I remember it was snowing. And I was like, are you hungry? He's like, man, I'm so hungry, boss. So we go to Popeyes, and I'm like, order whatever you want. So he orders whatever he wants. He's feeling good now because he's got a place to go. He's got to pick up some of the stuff from this other shelter. And before he goes, I give him an envelope. And I'm like, this is a Christmas gift. And he's like, no, I don't need anything from you. He's like, you've been good, whatever. I'm like, no, it's a Christmas gift. I gave him $100. Just, I can go spend it on whatever.
Yeah.
But to him, right now, it's about survival, right? Can I do that with every kid? No. But did I want to do it with this kid? 100%. And this kid has my personal phone number. So I gave it to him so he could have a Christmas because he's going to be by himself.
Yeah.
So now something happens with this whole house. She kicks him out because she wants her son to come back and live in the basement because he can't live by himself, whatever. So now he feels ashamed, doesn't tell me anything. I don't hear from him. I go to Eva's place, another shelter I have a good relationship with, because they were celebrating some kind of anniversary or something. I can't remember what it was. And while I'm there, and this is months later, who do I see there? This young man. And he said he wasn't going to come up to me because he felt ashamed that he was living in a shelter after all the work I did for him. And I remember, and he was talking to me. I just grabbed him and just gave him this huge hug. I'm like, bro, I just want you to be safe. I want you to be good. So I talked to the manager at the house. I'm like, this is family to me. This young man is family. We got to find him something. And he's a hard worker. So he found a place in Mississauga that was willing to take him in as like a semi-independent place where he could get schooling, do some courses, and kind of do something for his life. And he called me. He's like, do you mind moving me there? He's like, I'd feel more comfortable if it was you coming with me to go there to get settled. So it was the day I was working. So I asked my inspector, and he was like, 100%. This is when you know it's good, because it's coming from my leadership saying, you know what? We see the importance of this, do it. So I drove with this kid to this place in Mississauga to set him up. And he put me as one of his emergency contacts. He got set up in his room. He was like, hey, I got to introduce you to my big bro, and blah, blah, blah. He was introducing me to people who you could tell were uncomfortable with police. But at this point, he's like, I don't care, your family. And long story short, we've been close ever since. Like, and that's one story.
Yeah.
There's many.
So, look, I'll say this, man. The Dale that's talking right now, the belief structure, the communication, was that the Dale that entered the police force.
100%.
So for anybody right now listening and wants to be a cop, if you do not have the remnants of what you're hearing right now, get lost, because you're not needed in the force. Honestly, it bothers me because a lot of people, they truly don't understand. And to me, the reason why I'm saying this, and I kind of set it up in the way is that, you know, Dale, you got hired because of who you are, your value system, how you communicate, your thought process, and that's translating 5 years later, and nothing shows me that's backing down. And then, you know, we have so many people that we talk to that just feel they're entitled and they're God's gift to the world, and
because of how much they bench and all this stuff,
and they get it all wrong. And I mean, and then sometimes the sad thing is that those people actually do get on the police force. I don't know how the hell that happens. Yeah. But the bottom line is, I think it's so important that people just, when they hear this and they capture the essence of what you do, like we're not telling people to go and find a troubled individual and then change their life. That's your natural goodness.
This is
okay?
it. Yeah,
This is amazing, man, and I commend you for that. And I think more police officers, you know, even that are listening to this, it's good just to connect with that, because if you really fall back to what the start of this is, it was to serve.
Yes.
It's not to protect and serve. It starts off with to serve and protect, right?
Constantine, let me just jump in here. So he
yes,
he because he said he I don't know if you guys caught it. He said it like 6 times, just little droplets. He goes, you know, and they say I'm not doing enough, and you know, so
be careful with that question coming up.
No, I'm just like
I have a feeling. Okay.
So you're an Instagram model.
Wow.
An Instagram role model.
Yes.
Not the one in your G-string.
By the way, while we're on Instagram, what's your handle on Instagram?
He's not twerking.
I would love to, but that would my handle is TP Swift D. TP Swift D.
TP
Tango
Swift
Papa
D.
Swift Delta.
Okay.
Delta, perfect.
So just real quick, so you're an Instagram role model.
Okay.
So you're on social media. The fogies don't get it. What is that social media stuff? And they're thinking you're dancing. I've seen your social media. The guy's dancing with kids, and they're thinking this guy's not doing anything. Meanwhile, you're doing way. If you looked up above and beyond in the dictionary, your face would be there. No. Like with that story what you just told that kid. That has nothing. That is not in your job description, but you do it.
Okay, look. If you look outside our office, there is a 6'7" or 6 statue of a Spartan.
Yeah.
Okay, and what a Spartan represents is basically elite mindset, physical, everything. To me, what you're just saying right now, Miguel, is like everything that Dale represents should be what.
Yes,
the community.
It should be the standard.
I think the community desperately wants this.
And they do.
Yes.
I like the support from the community, even when things were bad, like even when stuff happened with George Floyd or whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of the community and my youth that are known to us, like who are in the system, would reach out and be like, Swift, are you good? Like, how are you?
Wow.
That to me.
Because cops are getting such a bad rap. Wow.
And I was getting this from kids who have had negative interaction with cops, and they'd be reaching out going, Swift,
are you
we're
good?
Just checking in. Are you good?
That's crazy.
Come on.
And
that's cool, man.
And the thing people have to understand is like, yes, I'm in a particular role. It gives me a lot of time to be in the community. But a lot of my work is actually done after I finish. My phone doesn't stop.
Right, I bet.
And even when I was patrolling on general patrol, everyone's like, yeah, but you're in a position where you can do that. I'm like, instead of sitting in your car on patrol waiting for the next call, or you go kind of chill with your boys and stuff like that, just talking, just walk through community, say hello, say what's up, just make yourself available, connect. Like that's what we did. And my supervisors made sure I was always with partners who felt the same. So I was doing this before this role was there. Because
did they just create this role? Is it a new role?
No.
Oh, sorry.
It's been through the process in the last, I'd say 6-7 years.
You just weren't in that role.
No,
but you were doing it anyways.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So it was something that I knew we needed to do. I'm like, I know you need to connect with the community. I think when a lot of people come on, they think about like, where do they want to go? You know, I want to get promoted, or I want to do that job that's sexy. I want to have that sexy arrest. And it's like everything is self-motivated for yourself.
Self-serving.
It's very self-serving.
It's the authority of the badge.
And everyone's like,
being respected.
You're doing all this stuff, and you know all the command and chiefs and all this stuff because you're looking to get promoted. I'm like, I am actually not looking to get promoted. I'm just doing this now because I know it's needed.
So you catch a lot of hate. You catch a lot of hate internally.
Yes, yeah, I do.
Wow.
I do, and To the point where I've had to really figure out. I've had great conversations.
That's when you know you're doing the job, man.
100%.
That's when you know.
And when that hate is coming, I explain this to youth as well. Say thank you. I say because nothing worthwhile has come without resistance
And sacrifice.
Pause.
period.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm like, when you're hating on me, I always respond respectfully, and I
just
let the
crazy,
community
though.
members go after you.
Yeah,
They just
yeah.
go and they rip these guys apart.
That's
Or-
crazy, man.
or other cops, because there's a lot more cops like me than are shown, and that's 100% true. That get it in whatever role, and it could be investigative, it could be on the road, whatever, and they do this stuff, but we just don't promote that. We talk about the tons of arrests we got, or the dope seizure or the gun seizure, while you have cops who are de-escalating stuff and getting kids out of gangs or
No.
human trafficking on a regular.
It's
because
actually a
they're putting
good
that
point.
hour.
That's not because it's not a headliner, right? I mean, that's, you just say
I'm not a
raid,
headliner. Yep.
100 guns, 70 arrests, like, okay, and that's the extent of policing. That's the
And that's
emphasis
it.
of it.
And that's what
Versus
people
the
think
guy
it
who's
is.
there every day.
Every day.
Yeah, these are 15 young men who all admit they would have gone into a criminal lifestyle,
Yeah.
but through
The relationship.
The relationship.
And the
And I don't care about the
mentorship.
accolades. Like, I don't care about it. I've gotten awards for TPS, but I've also gotten awards in the community.
Yeah.
Right? So
Sick.
that's where the balance is. And I don't even care for that. It's just, this is just who I am. I know there's going to be people who are resistant, but it's what's needed now.
we hope we see the shift, because it's like two legs, right? You need both to serve and protect. They work in tandem. I think it's just which is going to be the leading leg.
It
right?
just takes work. It
Yeah.
takes work. You've got to, and the
Yeah.
thing with communities, you got to put yourself out there first. You can't expect the community to put themselves out and say, okay, we'll give you a chance, and we'll extend the olive branch. No, we have to do that, because we have to show them
Yes.
something different.
Yeah.
We have to show them that we view them as something different, not as.
gotta break the stigma.
You got to break the stigma.
Yeah,
but that's up to
yeah,
us.
Yeah.
That's up
But
to
we're
you.
so
That's right.
concerned about like what other people or officers think about how we interact with that. It's like, oh, you're gonna go flip burgers and blah blah blah. I'm like, are you dumb? I don't think I
It's all-
flipped a burger.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
But is that taken at face
Yeah.
value, man? That's
I
all.
flipped someone's personality.
Right.
I
Yeah.
flipped their life
Yeah.
choices.
Come
Yeah.
on now.
But that's the thing you don't hear about. So.
Yeah. And you
I-
might
I'm
teach
an
you
easy
might teach a
target.
kid a gangster boogie dance on the
100%, right?
right? But it's you might,
But you might. But you know what I'm
this
saying?
this would keep them from,
Yeah.
considering criminality.
Yeah.
Yo, so that's amazing. It sucks that people hate on
Yeah,
you, but
it's
you know what?
what-
It happens. It's in any field. Yo,
you
why
have
is
to
this guy?
expect that.
This guy's sucking up. This guy's whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
This could be a can of worms, but let's keep it quick
Okay.
if you can.
Okay.
Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
That whole movement, not the movement, like what
Yeah.
happened, like George Floyd. So when you, because you touched on it, you said
Yeah.
guys were calling you, saying you good. So
Yeah.
when that stuff happened, were you like on guard? Were you like,
It was so many things. So I was off when this whole thing happened with George Floyd, right? And I had a youth. Ironically, it was a youth from the West, and I connected with a few months ago. That anti-cop. He reached out to me, and he's like, he showed me the video, and he's like, Swift, can you speak on this? Like, what is this? And he showed me the video, and I was like, there's no way I'm watching this.
Oh,
has
my
to, I'm like,
goodness.
this is.
I know.
You are literally watching a slow execution. I don't care if he was committing fraud. I don't care. Like, there's certain things that we have to do. Not only do we have to protect the community, but we also have to protect the people that we're arresting, right? Despite how you may feel about them.
they're human.
Trust me, there are people I've arrested where I just literally just want to headbutt their nose,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And just, you can't do that. You
Yeah.
take this job, you can't pick and choose when you're going to be a cop and when you want to be a criminal, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So
Jeez.
you see the situation, and then I thought to myself, all right, I'm going back into shift soon, so I'm gonna put on my uniform and discuss as a cop. And then I was thinking to myself, I'm like, no, I'm going to address this first and foremost as a black male who is a cop. And so I sent out a 10-minute video. I didn't ask for permission. I didn't ask TPS if it was a good idea. I know it should have been done, so I did it. And
Wow.
if something came out of it or someone was upset about it, so be it. I'll deal with it, right? But it's something that needed to be said. So I did this 10-minute video, and really at the end of it, the whole aspect of it was just we just need to be better versions of ourselves, not just police officers but community members as well. We got to be better. And then from that, the whole kneeling thing, people accept, like, people say I don't like to kneel. For their various reasons. I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm like, I have no problem kneeling because I have an ideology in regards to what it means, right? Some people are like, well, no, I don't want to kneel because it's like I'm kneeling on his neck again. I'm like, that's cool. Like, you shouldn't be put in a spot where you should or shouldn't be doing something. There were a lot of officers who felt like they were being targeted. There was a lot of officers who didn't like the fact that the chief and the command had kneeled. And I know they got a lot of flack from that from a lot of officers. But they did. And I actually think they should have did that just based on what was going on, just to show that you were with us. Forget the kneeling part and people yelling and screaming and whatever. For me, that was just saying, despite what's going on and despite how you feel about me, we got your back.
That's right.
That's all it was.
It's
That's
an
all I said.
opportunity,
Right.
to
100%.
Yes.
But a lot of officers saw it as a way of we looked weak. Like, how are you doing that? This is the one thing I'll agree with. If someone is yelling at me, telling me to kneel, I'm not going to kneel. I'm stubborn. I am not kneeling because you tell me to.
Exactly.
I am kneeling or doing whatever I need to do because I know it's the right thing to do.
That's right.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And in that aspect, I thought it was a good, because I'm telling you now, I think if they didn't, we'd have riots. So I think despite what other people thought, that action actually helped the city begin its healing. And I had, oh my gosh, I had so many youth reaching out to me that were so angry. My phone didn't stop. Just about breaking it down, like how I felt, how they felt, how angry they felt. And it just kept going on and on and on. And then there was one situation. Did I tell you about this with the picture thing?
No.
Oh my goodness. So I don't know how much time we have, but I'll try to make it short. I was asked to go down to the Black Lives Matter parade. Not parade, like a protest.
Yes.
And it was nigger cop this, it was blah, 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 traitor this, whatever, so on and so forth, from the community, which I expected. It was exhausting.
Were you working?
Yeah.
Oh, so you're in uniform.
I was asked to go down to the protest. Typically, neighborhood officers don't go down, but if your supervisor says go, you got to go.
That's right.
So I was by myself from my division, and I met up with 10 awesome guys from 32, phenomenal officers. So we were there, and we all had our points, right? And we were dealing with a lot of ignorance. You couldn't have those conversations with people because they were just walking by, so you just kind of took it. You just, whatever, right? They have every right to say what they want to say, cool.
Wow.
Then there was a situation where near the end, this is like a 15 to 16 hour day, right? And we're at Bay and Dundas. And it's scorching hot. And there was this one kid who came up in front of my SUV that was placed on the road, and just a whole bunch of hateful stuff and just whatever. And I was like, forget this. I'm like, I'm gonna have a conversation with this kid because he's right here. So we start the conversation. It starts off really bad. Like him and his friends just yelling, screaming, blah, blah, blah. I'm just listening. I don't change my whatever. I don't look angry. I'm letting them vent. I'll let them say whatever they feel they need to say. And then when they got tired, then I spoke. It was like a 15 to 20 minute conversation to the point where the one individual was just like, the main guy was like, I never looked at stuff that way. Because we had a conversation in regards to race, being a police officer, what's happening, what have you, being a better version of yourself. And he's like, do you mind taking a picture with me? And I'm like, of course. I'm like, I'll take a picture, no problem, right? So he's there and his boys are there, but I was mainly interacting with him. So he's got his friend there that's about to take a picture. So I got him right beside me here. And so I kneel down, and then I look up and we're doing the peace sign like this, right? Just focusing on the camera. Picture is taken. So I just have my phone again. Just put that down there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All good.
That's a youth.
Trap phone?
Luckily
There you
enough.
go.
Yeah. It's actually someone I'm working with human sex trafficking, but I'll get that after.
Wow.
I'm telling you, it's always.
You got a burner phone?
Right.
Huh?
Go ahead.
So anyways, shut up.
Sorry.
So anyways,
You're kneeling.
I kneel, takes a picture, boom. I'm like this. We get up, thank you so much, whatever. I got him on Instagram. So this is near the end of the protest. I'm driving back. By the time we got back to the division, I was dropping the cop off. And one cop comes up to me and he's like, Swift, what's with this picture? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Right? He's like, dude, you didn't see this picture? I'm like, no. So this kid has our picture, and it has Black Lives Matter in the background, which I don't care about. Like, you want to hate on that if you're a cop, so be it. I'm black.
Yeah.
My life matters, whatever.
Right.
But beside that was another poster I didn't see saying defund the police.
Right beside it. Yeah.
But
And he has to see
that is not, like deuces,
Yeah.
right? So optics, it looks absolutely horrible. But to add insult to injury, the guy, the young man who I'm actually really close with now, ironically enough, like him and I are tight. We shared our story once again, right? We found an opportunity. The caption is, officer says F the police and takes a stand with us. No. Officer says F his job.
Right.
And takes a stand with us.
Wow.
And I'm looking
They
at
just
this.
became the National Enquirer right there.
What?
Yeah.
And it's hashtag Toronto Police.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
So
Disaster.
this is an absolute disaster, right? And the ironic thing about this whole defund the police thing is that literally command, like the chiefs and whatever, gave me the go-ahead to talk, I think 3 or 4 times on the news, like CBC, Global, whatever, in regards to what that meant and how I felt about that. And of course you need the police. Like, I'm not, no, get rid of us. Like, that's not the case. But we started talking about mental health and reallocating funds or whatever we could to help kids, especially kids coming out of the system looking for jobs or further money for mental health with kids. So I was on multiple different social media platforms discussing how we broke down defunding the police because everyone just thought get rid of the police. I'm like,
That's
no,
right,
there's so much more to it.
Yeah.
And then here I am with a picture which I would never take just based on the sensitivity of the topic.
Right.
I know what it means, but other officers are going to be like, what are you doing? And optics, when you first see it, it looks bad.
Right.
Like, bad.
Deuces.
So my phones are going off, and I have officers I'm close to putting out multiple fires, higher ups, everything, and it's all internal still, all internal. So
And the old boys are like, see, Dale, see, I told you.
And that's exactly
Stay
what
off
it
that
was.
stupid social media
They
stuff,
were just
Dale.
like, and the thing is too, when you're out there all the time, you are going to be in situations that are all the time because you're in the public eye. This stuff is going to happen. You say, go out there, make a difference, blah, blah, blah. And then you do that. At some point, you're going to get caught up in something. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And usually I check to see what's going on, but I was just so impressed in regards to this communication. I didn't look down to see that there was defund the police, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't expect him to say officers F his job.
Yeah.
So I reach out to this kid and I'm like, I sent him a voice message on Instagram. And I'm like, oh, look, hey, just so you know, man, like I'm getting a lot of heat from this picture, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, and I explained the situation to him and automatically he called me back. He texted me back and he's like, I am so sorry. He's like, we were just in the moment. We were hyped.
That's
We were
cool,
like,
man.
yeah, this cop wanted to take a stand with us. And he's like, yeah, I guess the whole defund the police thing is not that great. And the whole F your job.
Yeah.
So
I can see how it could be misinterpreted.
you think? Yeah. So here I am, enemy number one. Here's a black officer that people are already looking to throw daggers at. Does this, right? So I'm an easy target. So I'm having conversations with a whole bunch of people, inspectors, everything, just trying to explain the situation because I don't know what's going to happen out of this. The amount of hate mail, the amount of hate, everything I got from, and it was internal. This was all cops. All cops, okay? It was crazy. So he changed the caption to saying, first he said, cop, show support by taking a knee with us. That wasn't enough, right? Because that picture's still up. So I'm going to call him back because people are still raving about it. And when I went to go talk to him, he actually took the whole thing down. So before it went viral or before it went whatever, he took it down and he apologized. And from that day, I still talk to this kid.
That's
because
awesome.
the ironic
that's
thing
cool.
is that despite him being the one to put it up, he was literally the most mature about this whole
He had
situation.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
And he is a young man who was
Yes.
whatever, right? And
He had the
out of respect for
integrity
me,
to- yeah,
100%.
yeah, to
Because he
take
could have
it
been
down.
like, forget
Whatever,
this is
man.
Yeah.
gold.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
Yes.
Deuces, but he
Exactly.
didn't. He's like, you know what? That wasn't my intention.
Yeah.
Despite what my friends did with the sign, that
Yes.
was not my intention. Whatever. Took it down. Heat after that.
Yeah.
But the great thing out of that
Wow.
was that I had uncomfortable conversations with a lot of officers saying like, look, Swift, this looks bad. Explain this. And then great conversations have because they wanted to find out what
From
was
it.
going on.
Yeah.
And they would say like, look, we have a lot of guys and girls like saying, no, Swift he was just on TV talking about this stuff. Like he doesn't believe in this stuff. Like just, you got to hear him out without throwing that hate so quick because, but the environment at that time was also very heated,
Yes.
right? So this was just like the straw that
The
broke the
climate.
camel's
Temperatures rising.
Temperatures
So-
rising.
And there I am, right in the forefront of it, right? So,
There it is again.
great conversations, relationships lost, but relationships built.
Yeah.
I loved how cops I didn't know reached out to me, and we had great conversations. The ones who didn't, who just wanted to hate, I don't care about.
Right.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Because who are you?
It's all
You
good.
know what I mean?
It's all good.
So, but that caused a lot of stress because I went into work not really knowing who was okay with me and who wasn't.
Right.
Look, I
Right.
guess the hope is that your progressive style, that it starts to catch on, and that some of the, the old stock, that kind of thinking, right?
Yeah.
Talk about an old
The
wineskin.
double chin.
The ones with the double chins. That's I'm quoting that guy,
I call them Frosties.
Yeah, the
That's another
Frosties.
story.
But that eventually that slowly starts to become extinct. Hopefully that's how we used to do it in the 80s and the 90s and early 2000. But there's this guy George Floyd, and his death meant this, and we started to look in deeper and started these conversations that never were had before started to happen, and good people that were doing things and that's why I just want to commend you for what you're doing. In a way, it's like a breadcrumb trail that eventually someone will ask, hey, what have you been up to? Okay, and then that's the best thing about it. It can maybe for the next batch of police, you just never know what that will birth. There's this whole program, and it's part of their policing, and they start coming into what needs to happen, how it needs to happen. So just want to commend you for that.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah, you're obviously not on a beaten path. You're kind of doing it in your way.
You gotta do it, and a lot of conversations. A lot of officers, I think, who were minorities, really started talking out about their
it's good.
experiences. And
Yeah.
like, you'd always hear you had 4 officers from York come out. I don't know if you saw that YouTube thing, but I can send it to you guys, where they talked about the racism that they faced and are still facing in their service. That took a lot of courage.
Yeah.
Because
Speak up.
a lot of things, like when you have the old boys group or whatever it is, when people say stuff to you that are ignorant, being a girl, being of different ethnicity, whatever, it's like, oh, come on, just take it for the team and just relax, you're fine. But pretty much what that did is it just really oppressed a lot of individuals. But those individuals did that because if they didn't, you might win the war there and bring it up and get someone disciplined, but policing's a very finicky thing where that situation where you stand up for yourself can ruin your career, and you're going to be stuck doing something you don't want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of these officers
Shunned.
just completely shunned, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good you are, doesn't matter whatever. If you upset someone and you brought something to their attention, which should have been brought to attention, and someone didn't like it who was higher up, you kind of disappear.
Hopefully it works out, and that it actually influences others. If it doesn't work out, you can always come into private security.
So you always have a family here,
Oh,
Dale.
I appreciate it.
Constantine, I'm sure you'll put him
Yes.
right up the ranks.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dale, would you come back?
We always have donuts here.
Would you come back?
Wow. It's gotta be Eclairs though, man.
Listen, we gotta cut. We'll be here all day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you come back?
I would definitely come.
Okay.
100%.
We gotta-
Okay.
because I'm
You've been
sure
a breath of fresh air.
TPS. How do you follow you?
TP Swifty.
TP Swifty.
And to any youth out there, it's a public thing too, so don't worry about following it. You can just send me DMs. I will get back to you 100% if you're a youth. And I just really want to give a shout out to a lot of the officers who are really trying to make that difference despite the ignorance that's around them.
Amazing.
It's not easy, but the more of you that are out there doing that stuff, the less the ignorance will impact us in the community. So thank you guys and
Well
girls so
said.
much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well said.
Amazing.
That's it.
That's it. All right.
That's it, man.
Dale Swift. Thanks, everybody.
Dale Swift.
Take care.
All right. Peace.
Make sure to drop by next week.
Let's go.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Let's go.
It's time to give a shout out to our sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by Sentinel Security Plus. For all your premium security needs, visit sentinelsecurityplus.com.